Okay, welcome back. This is a short video on the top 10 ways unpaid carers can get support from their doctor. Now, I suppose many of you are thinking why am I doing a video on this? Well, doctors are probably the most common point of resource for unpaid carers, but at the same time, they're almost the most mysterious in some sense, because usually when we go and see the doctor, when we're caring for someone, we tend to want to raise awareness that perhaps the health of that person is declined and we are seeking extra support. But this time I want to focus more on what the doctor or GP can do for you if you're an unpaid carer caring for someone with long-term illness, whether it's mental or physical. So what we're going to be looking at on this video presentation, why unpaid carers actually need support from their doctor. I've just given you maybe one or two. Also talking about, as I mentioned, from that title, the top 10 ways unpaid carers can get support from their GP. And I'll conclude and summarize, what I'm basically talking about, to be honest. Some of these things I'm not going to talk about straight away. It's always good to summarize them because they can impact on the support you need from the GP. Okay, so let's say you're caring for someone in the family, close friend. Why should you seek support from the GP? I did mention something earlier, which is very obvious. Their health has declined. And that's basically what I've just said: raise awareness of your loved one's physical or mental health. Things are perhaps getting worse, and you want urgent doctor's visit, or have it recorded somewhere in the patient's notes. But also for yourself, it's worth getting a mental and physical health checkup. And you might sort of think, well, all right, that's bog standard. Why should an unpaid carer just do that? Well, I'll tell you something. Usually it's burnout. When you're caring for someone for a long length of time, you do risk carer burnout, because often you're putting the loved ones first, obviously, because of their health needs. But there's a risk you're just not paying attention to your own mental or physical health. So it's always important to set aside an appointment or schedule an appointment to visit your GP regarding those things. And access to resources might be a bit I'm not sure the best word for it, but there's so many different resources you can actually access from the GP. But I'll say this more than once, not all GP practices are the same. So it's quite important to take note of that, and I'll repeat that later on during the presentation I'm presenting here. And the other thing is gateway to other services, whether it be access to secondary care. That means your loved one or the person that you're caring for is now going to be referred to hospital support. Good example is your loved one's mental health has declined so much, or is a high level of need, that they referred to mental health services. Not to say mental health services will only perhaps keep them on for a specific length of time. It depending on the mental ill health. It could be indefinite if it's particularly serious. But the common thing with this is that GP is, and I would say, the gateway to other services. The other thing for yourself is that they could use what we call social prescribing for yourself, really, where you're referred, and this is very important, I'm going to say, you would be referred to your local care centre in order to access support, be identified as a carer, and you might even be referred for a carer's assessment. It really depends on your situation as a carer. So let's continue, because I've got to try and keep this video short. So ways GPs can have unpaid care. So obviously I've mentioned this a few times now, but it's still important to mention that, there's many unpaid carers that just do not go for regular checkups. Obviously, there's quite a few reasons why, because they're so busy focusing on their loved one. The other things, this is controversial, it can be difficult to get an appointment with your GP, so some unpaid carers, they might just put it off. But it's still the number one reason you should go and see your doctor or your general practitioner is to get regular checkups, particularly if you're getting on in age. It's very important. The thing is access to resources, and this could be inquiring about not just resources provided at the local GP centre, the practice. It could be stuff that's out in the community. I did mention the social prescribing route, and that, even oddly enough, that seems to be more aimed at older adults who are visiting their GP, can't get to sleep at night, and in the past the GP used to prescribe them medication, hence the term prescribing. But this time you can't solve everything by drugs and medication. Usually it would be better to prescribe someone to a social community group. In your case, it would be your local care centre. So support groups, if you're lucky, respite care support, community programs for carers. This can actually come from, I would say ICSs, integrated care systems, or commissioners, especially when it comes to talking therapies, which is another good one. Carers can be prescribed to that if they're experiencing low mood, not seriously mental health needs, but low mood, not eating well, can't get to sleep. So these would be talking therapies. Do keep note of these. You never know if they're in your area. What else do we have? Medication management. This is tricky because that means you need to be more involved in your loved one's care regarding this. So, for instance, they prescribe medication, your care, you have to go and pick up that medication. All this is with agreement. The person has mobility issues that you're caring for, so obviously, you might go to the pharmacist to do that, but there's a lot more to it, because you might have to end up seeking advice on how you manage that medication for the person you care for. The reason for all this is that if they prescribe several medications, you're not sure when to give them that medication, you're not sure what side effects to look out for. There might be changes in that medication. They could only be prescribed for a certain time. You do this wrong, you could basically put your loved one's health at risk. So it's always wise to see the GP about that and see what they say. This is also, it really depends on the GP practice, but again, this is more referral. I've in the past been referred to when I was caring for my mother, and due to her ill health, she had trouble managing financial and legal support. So the GP said, look, you got your Citizens Advice Bureau, but if it comes under mental ill health, there's specific services that can help in regards to legal aid or navigating financial aid, especially if it's related to the caregiving. But this really heavily depends on your GP practice. They might not know this sort of thing. The bigger the doctor's surgery, the more likely you'll get that kind of information. This is a very important one, probably second on importance to regular checkups. And I've always urged carers, if they're caring for someone long term, depending on the condition, it helps to have an emergency plan with the GP, especially when things might not be so clear. And this tends to happen, not always, but when my loved one was in hospital and was discharged and something went wrong, the health was failing, we were fortunate enough to go and see the GP, who then said no, she needs to go back into hospital, and let's draft a plan up in place. Very important. And GPs, they deal with this stuff all the time. There might be templates out there for emergency plans, and usually I'm thinking about mental health services. they might prescribe emergency plans for you to put down who's in the medical team, what needs to be done if you yourself fall unwell. The big one, actually, as of 2024, is universal care package. I'm not sure if I got that completely right. I'll have to put a link in the video. Yeah, it could be universal care plan, and basically, if you're unable to care for someone, and I'm not saying now, but you're planning for the future, basically health services are what you call using an online system where you're given access to an account that can be accessed perhaps from a mobile phone or laptop, whatever, and you can fill in the details which can be shared between health services, so between the doctor and the hospital and other health providers. But the idea is this is an online, in fact this is a separate, almost a separate presentation. I will provide some links in this video where you can have a look at yourself. This is hot off the press regarding 2024, due to expand, I would say. This is really important, actually. So lifestyle choices, and this is again related to situations where carers are sort of neglecting their own health needs. It can be really easy to happen. You're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you're falling sick too often, and the GP notices this, and they say, listen, there's they'll start giving you tips on maintaining healthy lifestyle, whether it's exercise or just managing your stress levels. It just might come off the back of a regular checkup. Obviously, this can go double to the person that you're caring for. A good example is managing diabetes package. So you're made aware that there's a course you might take place at the GP practice, and they're usually free. I know the NHS has a scheme now where there's specific training for unpaid care, how to deal with falls, how to deal with specific illnesses. It's all free. I don't know if I have the link for that. I'll try and look around for it. But this is something GPs, again, depending on the practice, can offer. Again, this one's quite difficult, actually, and it usually is in agreement with the person that you're looking after. The GP can be a great advice when it comes to developing care plans, and if you're lucky enough and you book a double appointment with the GP, and if you're really lucky the person you care for is with you, you can draft up a care plan, so that way you're planning for the future regarding the person's health needs. And the reason for doing this, it can reduce anxiety and stress levels, so you're planning for the unexpected. But part of the expert on this is the GP. You're not saying that the unpaid carers don't know nothing they do, but it all helps if we're working together when drafting a care plan. And training and education. Again, I've mentioned this before. There might be workshops held at the local doctor's surgery. Some of them will be related to the caregiving task, while others will look into helping you train regarding your skill sets in providing care. A lot of it is usually NHS funded, but what we're trying to get away from is unpaid carers who are thrust into the world of unpaid care, and they don't know what they're dealing with. It could be mental ill health, it could be a serious decline in the person's physical health. And the way the NHS is at the moment is going to depend heavily on unpaid carers, but they need to be trained. They can't just be told to just get on with it. That wouldn't be quite fair. So let's sum this up, really. The advice I can give to any carer out there is that GPs, they're not alike. You've got some really good ones that know all this stuff that I'm talking about. They're really clued up. They know your role as a carer. They want you identified. In fact, there's GP surgeries that usually identify you as a carer and put you on what you call a carer's register, so they can keep in touch with you and let you know about anything that's worth you being clued up on. So choose your GP well. You can change them as well. You don't have to be, stuck with the one that might not understand your issue, what you're caring for. The other thing is know the practice team. It's not just about the GP. You got specific advisors at the GP surgery. Again, this is another talk for another day. Good example is a mental health nurse. Some GPs just won't know as much as a mental health nurse that's based at the GP surgery, or someone that deals with diabetes, or someone that deals with physical health or talking therapy. They might be based at that practice. So I always advise carers to ask at the reception, what other service can be provided at the GP practice. And plan ahead for emergencies. Don't just sort of do this yourself. Book an appointment with the GP if you're lucky enough, I suppose, to get the full cooperation with the person that you're caring for. Most of the time it's okay, but it helps if the GP can help plan this thing, and it all goes on the record, because if you are doing a care plan or plan for emergencies, and I'm talking about universal care plan again, and I'll put a link in the chat, sorry, not in the chat, but at the bottom of the video, if you're interested to hear more about that, because I think what we don't want is, the carers who have a situation facing their loved one's health. The carer is unable to do any caring, or someone can't access the patient record regarding what has happened to that patient if their health suddenly goes down the pan. Well, anyway, I think I'll end it on here, and I'd like to say, if you like the video, please give us a like. Do subscribe. I'll always try and do more care awareness videos, because it's always important to share knowledge, and these things can help. Even if it just helps the one person, I would be glad that I'm doing these videos. And I'd like to say thanks for watching. Keep in touch.